Hi, everyone. Today on The Real Story, all eyes on the House of Representatives right now. It's been debating, may actually vote during this hour on a bill to put back in place death benefits for families of our brave Americans killed in combat. Benefits now frozen by this shutdown. Bill O'Reilly joins us to talk about that, along with his fiery and real comments about Obamacare. Kathy Lee Gifford is here, too, speaking out about partisan politics. She'll share her solution. And Elizabeth Smart is here as well. She spent 9 months in captivity. Her amazing story of survival coming up today. Hi, everyone. Welcome to The Real Story. I'm Gretchen Carlson. 9 days now into the partial government shutdown, only 8 days from a potential default on our nation's debt. Today, new talks about talks, with President Obama inviting all 4 congressional caucuses for meetings at the White House in the coming days, beginning with House Dems later this afternoon. Our own Wendell Goller live for us at the White House with the very latest. Wendell, what are we to make of all this?
Well, Gretchen, White House officials say funding some parts of the government and not others is wrong, not the right way to run the government. But House Speaker John Boehner says it's also wrong to give some people a break from Obamacare and not give breaks to others.
Consumers face dramatically higher rates. Many remain locked out. They're surprised their premiums went up. Instead of making it easier for people to get health insurance, it's going to be a lot tougher. What a train wreck. How can we tax people for not buying a product from a website that doesn't work?
Today's meeting is the first of 4 the president will have with Democrat and Republican members of the House and Senate in coming days, though it's unclear whether there will be an exchange of ideas that might lead to a compromise plan to reopen the government and extend the nation's credit limit so we can pay our bills. You're looking at Defense Secretary Hagel greeting the remains of 4 servicemen and women killed in Afghanistan over the weekend at Dover Air Force Base. The latest example of problems with piecemeal funding involves the bill that Congress passed and the president signed to pay active duty servicemen and women during the shutdown. Turns out it didn't provide money for the families of those killed in action.
Unfortunately, this issue was not explicitly addressed as part of the Pay Our Military Act. The president was very disturbed to learn of this problem, and he directed the Department of Defense to work with the Office of Management and Budget and his lawyers to develop a possible solution. And the president expects this to be fixed today.
Carney was pressed on exactly when the president became aware that the bill didn't provide for the death benefits, and he was unable to provide us that information. Gretchen?
Wendell Goller live for us at the White House. Thanks much. Live look now at the House floor as we are awaiting that vote I was telling you about on a bill to restore these death benefits for families of fallen troops. This, as just a few hours ago we learned that the families of the 4 soldiers killed in Afghanistan received their bodies at a dignified transfer at Dover Air Force Base, all thanks to the Fisher House Foundation, who offered to cover the $100,000 payment that the government put on hold for each family. According to a senior defense official, 26 families in all now are not receiving death benefits. Among 5 of the fallen troops are these faces. Army Special Agent Joseph Peters, 24 years old and on his 3rd deployment. Army First Lieutenant Jennifer Marino, the 25-year-old from San Diego, was on her 1st deployment. And Army Private First Class Cody Patterson, 24 years old. He was on his 2nd deployment to Afghanistan. Army Sergeant Patrick Hawkins, also 25 years old, killed trying to aid a wounded fellow Ranger. And Marine Lance Corporal Jeremiah Collins, Jr., only 19 years old. Joining me now, Bill O'Reilly, host of The O'Reilly Factor and author of the brand new book, Killing Jesus. Great to see you, Bill. And on this somber note, I have to ask you, are we now playing politics with dead soldiers today?
I don't think so. I don't think we're playing politics with it. I just think it is incompetence and a failure of leadership. Secretary of Defense Hagel, former senator from Nebraska, should resign immediately. Should resign. Out.
Why?
Gone.
Why?
Because it's his fault. He oversees it, and he could have gone immediately to the President of the United States, say, sign an executive order, get the money, and they could have gotten it. That would have taken maybe a half an hour, 30 minutes. There's no need for this debate in the House of Representatives. There's no need for this. That's all baloney.
But should the president have done something?
Of course. Hagel should have brought it to the president immediately, way before, anticipating that would happen, because they all said it might happen. So let's not have it happen. So Hagel, he's gone. He's through. It's just a matter of when they'll boot him out, because he can't be the Secretary of Defense any longer because the soldiers don't respect him. How could you respect him? He's gone. He never should have gotten the job in the beginning. He has no clue what he's doing. President Obama, the commander-in-chief, is this leadership? Is this leadership? All of this Obamacare stuff and government stuff should have been done in July. July. A true leader anticipates problems, gets out in front of them. And now we have a disaster on not only this front, but all kinds of fronts.
So you believe it was incompetence, in your words, not plain politics?
No.
Because some have speculated that it could be that this was the pain that this administration wanted the Americans to see happening in their face, and it was the Republicans' fault for this type of a shutdown.
Anybody who's speculating on that is irresponsible, period.
And do you believe Speaker Boehner when he says that when he signed into action this Pay Our Military Act before the shutdown, that he thought that it included these $100,000 payments?
I believe Boehner. I think he's telling the truth there.
So now we have the House who's debating this right now during this show. They may, in fact, vote. I don't know who'd vote against this, by the way. Do you?
Nobody would. That's why it's a charade.
So,
Look,
but
an executive order gets this done. You don't need to do all this.
Right, but once again, we're back to the House. And they seem to be the only ones passing anything right now.
Well, again, I think it's a charade, and it's disgusting, disgraceful, whatever adjective you want to use. It just makes me very sad for the state of our country and the lack of leadership across the board.
Speaking of leadership, let's talk about Obamacare. You have been railing against this the last couple of nights on The Factor. You have basically been saying, look, what is the big problem with pushing it off for another year?
There isn't any
You don't
problem.
think it's ready for prime time?
Nobody does. Who thinks it's ready? Besides Jay Carney and President Obama and Nancy Pelosi and Harry Reid, who thinks it's ready? Everybody knows it's not ready. You can't even sign up if you want to. Look, there's no embarrassment I'm saying that this huge change is going to take a little longer. That's just logical.
So why do you think they went ahead to push for it? Because when you look over the last 6 months to a year, there have been 4 major delays. Out-of-pocket costs delayed, small business health options program delayed, employer mandate delayed, verifying income delayed. This is February to July. What would the big deal have been to just say, hey, for the average American out there, we're also going to just delay it for another
we're going to
year.
give you an option. You can sign up if you want, but if you don't want to, you have a year. It's Syria. That's why, because President Obama looked weak on Syria, he doesn't want to look weak here. That's what it's about.
Really?
That's what it's about. You know, these politics in Washington just ruin the country right now. I throw them all out. All of them. I think we should start over again.
A clean slate.
Yeah, a constitutional convention.
You know where that's going to go. That's going to be like
Franklin back.
That's going to be like Bill O'Reilly's thinking about running for office.
No, I don't want to run for office.
I know, you said it before. All right, let's talk a little bit, though, about people who actually warned this administration, people in President Obama's own party. I'm talking specifically about Congressman Robert Andrews, Democrat in New Jersey. He's quoted in a newspaper today as saying, nothing I told them ever surprised them. The White House has acknowledged all along something this massive was going to have implementation problems, the glitches that you've been talking about. So here you have somebody in President Obama's own party who's saying, hey, I warned them about the glitches, and they did nothing.
I told you, there's only 4 people in the country who think that this is ready for prime time, and I named them. Everybody else knows it isn't. So let's just acknowledge it isn't. You can blame whoever you want, but let's do the right thing for the folks and delay the individual mandate for a year. And then after a year, we'll have all the stats. How many people are going to pay more, what the co-pays are going to be deductible. So then the people can vote in 2014 on whether they want this law or not. All right?
Likelihood of that happening, though?
I think something's going to happen. I don't think President Obama's approval rating is down to 37%. He's ruining his legacy. He's ruining his administration. Something has to happen.
Let's talk about your book, Killing Jesus.
Yeah.
And you say, you know, right in the beginning of it, look, this is a historical perspective.
It's on the cover.
Yep. This is not a religious expose of Jesus. But yet you have faced criticism from people who I guess wanted it to be a little bit more about religion. Here's one quote. It would be even more problematic to completely leave out the facts concerning the divine nature of Jesus and his true mission and purpose. Those details are just as factual as any of the history Bill got right. So why leave it out?
Who said that?
This is written by Dan Delzell in a Christian publication.
Okay. Well,
so
listen,
why
Dan,
did you leave out those?
Because there's a million religious books on Jesus. They're all over the place. This is the first book that puts Jesus' life and death in context. All right? In the context of the world in which he lived, and says why he became the most famous human being ever on the planet. That's what this book does. If that offends you, it offends you. This book has sold almost 500,000 copies in 2 weeks. It's #1 in the world, by far. Not even close. I'm outselling Stephen King. I'm outselling all of them, all right? Because people are hungry to know about Jesus, the man. We already know about him. I'm a Roman Catholic. I believe he's God. But I'm not going to impose that on anyone. I want to tell you about the most famous human being who ever lived and why that happened. And we do that in vivid detail.
Well, it's a fascinating book, and I know
Thank
it will
you.
continue to sell many more copies. All right, before I let you go,
Yeah?
one thing we've been doing on the show is one last thing about somebody famous that maybe you didn't know. Am I going to get Bill O'Reilly to tell us something that people don't know?
About who?
You.
About me?
Yes.
I'm boring.
Oh, come on.
I am. I'm boring. Off camera, I mean, some people think I'm boring on camera, but off camera,
You know what?
I'm the most boring guy in the world.
And if you didn't give me an answer today,
Yeah, you would have said that.
I was going to
Yeah,
say that,
you're boring.
but I wasn't going to use the word boring.
No, what
because
word?
I know you well. I was going to say behind the scenes, you are much more quiet than people would think you would be.
That's because I'm exhausted from bloviating.
From bloviating.
Right.
Well, thank you so much for
Sure, Gretchen. Good luck
being
on the
real
program.
on the show. I
Right.
appreciate it. Thanks, Bill. Well, we want to hear from you. What do you think about Bill's book, Killing Jesus? Have you read it? And do you think Bill is boring? Email us at therealstory@foxnews.com. Tweet us using the hashtag #TheRealStory. We'll read your tweets and emails at the end of the show.